I thank the chairman. In the wake of 3.5 years of abject failure, but worse than that, purposeful action by the executive branch of the federal government to undermine the security of the American people, empower cartels, empower China, allow little children, little girls get sold into the sex trafficking trade for political expediency for the radical progressive Democrat left. All of that, in the wake of that, with dead Americans, with Lake and Riley, with Lizbeth Medina, with Kayla Hamilton, with all of the horrific stories, the stories of a 12-year-old little girl getting raped, a 13-year-old little girl getting raped. In the wake of all of that, now the administration wants to continue its lawlessness by the use and abuse of executive power to grant amnesty. That is the goal. That is the aim. Our colleagues on the other side of the aisle, our radical progressive Democrat colleagues, they view this as political opportunism. Nothing more, nothing less. This is not about the huddled masses being invited to the United States. This is not about anything of the sort. This is about political power. That's what this is about. And as a result, 53 human beings roasted in the Texas heat in a tractor trailer in San Antonio, Texas, which I represent. Because my colleagues, my radical progressive Democratic colleagues, and because of the radical progressive Democrat regime in the White House, the other end of Pennsylvania Avenue, they care more about political expediency than these human beings. That's the truth. They care more about political expediency than the individual Americans dying from fentanyl poisoning, or any of the individuals that I just described who were murdered or raped or killed because we're allowing criminals to be released into the United States illegally, unlawfully, using and abusing parole authority. And now, the administration wants to grant amnesty. Why? Oh, trust us, it's out of the goodness of our hearts, we are told. No, it is for the political expediency of setting up future voters, but importantly and more presciently, this is all about creating more incentive for more people to flood the zone, to flood the border, to come into this country. That's what it's about. Doesn't matter about whether it empowers cartels, doesn't matter about whether it empowers our enemies, doesn't matter what it means for the security of the people of Texas or anybody else in this country. It's all about flooding the zone with more numbers. Legislation that we have before us, the amendment that we're putting forward, would prohibit the use of funds from promoting such a foolish amnesty plan by this radical administration that refuses to follow the law. I reserve.
Gentleman reserves. For what purpose does the gentlelady from Illinois seek recognition?
I claim time in opposition.
Gentlelady is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, let me clarify the policy being attacked by this amendment. First, let me clarify what the policy being attacked by this amendment actually does. This policy does not confer a new path to permanent status, let alone a new path to citizenship. The people who will benefit from the policy are already eligible for a green card, but the policy removes a barrier that would require almost all families to be separated for 10 years before the undocumented immigrant could be eligible for a green card. On average, these immigrants have been in the United States for 23 years, are married to U.S. citizens, and still must go through a lengthy green card process. However, with this policy in place, people get to go through the legal steps of getting a green card without being separated for a decade or longer from their family. Any advocate for family values and unity should support this new process, which only applies to a limited subset of immigrants. Instead of being attacked, we should all applaud the Biden administration for advancing this policy. It demonstrates that the United States prioritizes family unity over archaic and harmful bureaucratic processes that serve no value and certainly provide no deterrence effect. I urge my colleagues to support this new policy and vote no on this amendment. I yield back.
Gentlelady yields back. Gentleman from Texas is recognized.
Mr. Chairman, I would yield 90 seconds to my good friend from Texas, Mr. Self.
Gentleman is recognized for 90 seconds.
Mr. Chairman, I rise today in support of Mr. Roy's amendment to prohibit any government funding for the Biden administration parole-in-place mass amnesty scheme. This parole-in-place executive order clearly demonstrates that the Biden administration is not and has never been serious about securing the border. His process would grant mass amnesty to approximately 80,000 inadmissible alien spouses of American citizens per month. And make no mistake, the timing of this executive order was purposeful. On June 21st, the Supreme Court issued its opinion in Department of State versus Munoz and concluded that a U.S. citizen's spouse does not have a fundamental liberty interest in her alien spouse's admission into the United States. The Biden administration rolled out his executive order directly contradicting this opinion just 3 days prior. The decision was obviously leaked to the Biden administration. This is another example of in-your-face tyranny. This administration is lawless. We must not pass a DHS appropriations bill that funds this mass parole order that would grant amnesty to possibly thousands of criminals and further endanger communities across the nation, particularly in light of the cynical and lawless timing of this order. I urge my colleagues to support the amendment, and I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. Gentleman from Texas is recognized.
Reserve.
Gentleman has the only time remaining.
Well, I appreciate my friend from Texas, Mr. Self. I agree with him. I associate myself with his remarks. The unilateral action by this executive branch is nothing new. They've been doing it with student loans. They've been doing it with all sorts of laws where they ignore the law, parole authority, abuse of law, endangering the American people. This would give permanent residence and a path to citizenship to hundreds of thousands of illegal alien spouses of U.S. citizens and their non-citizen minor children. That is being done through unilateral action by the executive branch. This is not how we are supposed to make policy or law. It is important for us to use the power of the purse to push back, and I urge adoption of the amendment.
The gentleman